everybody, it's your girl Nell. How are you doing today? I am live in the tiny studio. Let me get my banner up. Okay, that's great. Let me see if I can get some comments up. Hey everybody, what you know good today? I'm your girl Nell, and I am live in the tiny studio. Oh my God, can you believe that? I am live. I know I told you guys I was gonna check in with you guys earlier this week, but it did not happen that way. It did not happen. So it's Saturday. It's Saturday. What's today's date? December the 28th. And it is 1:38 p.m. in the afternoon. I am in the tiny studio because I had class this morning and a Zoom class. And it's not an official, it's not a university class. It's just that one of the professors that I've had in class, that I've taken a class with, well, a couple of classes with, she has her own group she has her own group, which is an immersive therapy group. It's a class. And she it's every Saturday morning. And so a lot of students and therapists in training and interns, we all get together Saturday mornings, and we have class, and it's really, really great. I really enjoy it. It's very it helps me out as a psychotherapist in training, to get to see other people who are, on the same path that I am, the same journey, academic journey, and to hear their experiences and, understand how they are processing the things that we're learning in as far as psychology and therapy and behavioral therapies and things of that nature. So today we had a really good class, and we talked about some of these things. I don't know if you can read my writing. Being unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent, consciously competent, and unconsciously competent. So that's what we talked about this morning in class, these 4 things, along with an exercise that we did. And that exercise was about how it was a parenting exercise, and it was about how we perceived, or how our parents may have perceived us as children. If you could remember or recall the ages of, let's see, between 6 and 9 years of age. If you can recall, if you could transport yourself back to the ages of 6, 7, 8, and 9, what were some of the things, what do you believe your parents thought about you at that age? What are some things that they said to you about who you were? And place yourself at that age right now. Let's do it together. Let's say let's transport ourselves back in time. For me, it would be 1973, and I was six years of age. What do you recall your mom or your dad saying about you? How did they view you as a young child, as a 6, 7, or 8-year-old child? What did they think about you? I'm going to tell you what my mom thought about me. It was one word that she used about me, to me. She always said, and at that young age, she said that I was hard-headed. Let me tell you, I've heard that word so much in my youth, being hard-headed. What does that mean, to be hard-headed? As a child, there are things that our parents say to us that we recall. And sometimes most of the time, things that our parents say to us live on in us, and we carry that into our adulthood. So, what were some things that your mom or your dad, just pick one, what are some things that they said about you? Transport yourself back to that age. What did they say about you? How did they feel about you? What did they say to you? And have you carried that into your adulthood? For myself personally, my mom used to call me hard headed. So, yes, I was very hard headed. And I guess that could be hard headed, stubborn. Um, I had my own way of thinking. Um, was that a good thing? Not as a child, because you're supposed to be listening and following the instructions of your parents. And I was for the most part obedient. However, I am very strong-willed, and yes, I have a hard head. Now, did you notice that? Now, I just said that, hey, um, being called hard-headed was something that my mom said to me often, a lot during my youth. And here I am at 50 something years old, and I'm still saying that I'm hard-headed. I mean, what's up with that? That's just how it is sometimes. What can you do? What can you do? But you can do a lot, and that's why psychology is a great thing. That's why that's why I'm studying to become a psychotherapist. Um, it's because the things that we are told as young people about ourselves, we ingest that into our psyche, and we believe that. And many times that can become a hindrance in who we are. My mom did not say I was intelligent. She didn't say I was strong. She didn't say I was smart. She said I was hard headed. And here I am, like I said, at 50 something years old, and I'm saying to you, yes, I am hard headed. Isn't that crazy? But that's why going to counseling is a good thing. And that's why becoming a counselor, becoming a psychotherapist is also a good thing, because I get to study the brain. I get to study human behavior. I get to study lifespan development. I get to study all of those things, and they're so fascinating to me. So, how are you doing? I do believe that for some of you, or most of you in the Western Hemisphere, these are the last days of 2024. The last days of 2024. The year has gone by really, really fast. We kicked off the year with Cat Williams over on Shannon Sharp's YouTube channel, and here we are at the end of 2024, and a lot of things have occurred in this world, in our country, and we're getting ready to step into 2025, and who knows what's about to happen. Who knows? Because now we have, Trump is back, to you know do his second term twirl, and here we are. I guess we don't have any choice. We gotta deal with that, right? But I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I mean, can it get worse? Could it be worse than the pandemic? I think the pandemic, um, during the Trump administration, during his 4 years in office, back in 2020, I believe, to me, that was a precursor to anything that this new administration could put forward. I believe that some of us, most of us survived that. So anything that happens, with this term, this administration that's coming in, anything that happens with that, I believe that we had the fortitude to survive it. We had the fortitude to navigate our way through it. And that's how I'm looking at things. When my girl Kamala lost back in November, I was saying to myself, as did everyone else who supported Kamala and supported democracy. We were all saying the same thing, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to us? What is the world going to be like under another Trump administration? What are we going to do? What's happening? And the only thing that I can truly, truly say is that we're going to survive. I am my ancestors. A lot of people say, oh, I'm not my ancestor. I'm not my ancestor. You hear a lot of people say that, a lot of Black people say that, young Black people, we're not our ancestors. But guess what? I am my ancestor, and I will survive. I'm going to make it. If my great-grandfather could come up from Georgia, as my grandmother called it, if he could come up from Georgia and make a life for himself in Detroit, Michigan, become a homeowner, support his family, have a business. If he can do that in the midst of the way the country was back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if he could do that, I know that I can do much in this world. And I have pictures of my great-grandfather's parents who were enslaved. And when I look into their faces, I see determination, I see strength, I see wisdom. So I believe that I am my ancestors. I have my great grandmother's eyes. So yes, most definitely, I am my ancestors. Definitely. And we're going to survive this. We're going to get through this. A cousin of mine wrote a book called The Washingtons of Washington Plantation. And there's one branch, paternal branch of my family tree that were enslaved on George Washington's, I believe it was his brother's plantation called Washington Plantation. And one of my ancestors married a woman who went through the Trail of Tears. She was an indigenous woman, and her name was Fanny Ricks. And he put a picture of her in my paternal and her husband, which would have been my paternal great grandfather. And there's a picture of her in his book. And I think that picture was taken in the late 1800s, maybe around 1870 something. And when I look into her face and into the face of my great grandfather and all the people that had survived being enslaved and who were still living and working on the plantation, the Washington Plantation, I think about that. I think how they survived and how they were able to continue on, and that because of their resilience and because of their I'm not going to give up, I will survive this, they were able to make a way for themselves and have children. And I am the progeny of Fanny Ricks. I'm the progeny of her. And indigenous woman who married an enslaved African American man. Oh, I am the product of that. And if she can do it, I can do it too, right? And that is my pattern. That's my way of thinking as we move into this new administration. I believe that I will survive it. My family will survive it. And I'm going to do the things that my ancestors did to be able to forge a path through adversity. Because I believe that the Trump administration is going to bring much adversity. I live in Florida, so I'm living through some really difficult times as an African American woman here. And I am thankful that my children are grown and they don't have to be a part of the Florida public school system. However, I do believe that it is my duty as an African American woman, as an educated African American woman, it is my duty to help educate the children that are coming up in this public school system. And so I have a few things that I'm planning on doing in the upcoming year as far as that is concerned. But it will be my own effort, and I'll be doing my part to be able to uplift my community and to be able to shed light, give hope to those who are stumbling in the dark, who are confused, who are dismayed about what's getting ready to happen on January 20th. I want everyone to know that this is not over. And when I mean it's not over, what I mean is we can survive it because we are our ancestors. We are our ancestors. I am my ancestor. So I will be doing the things that I need to do to be able to help my family and my community and anyone that comes into my orbit. So what have I been up to? Nothing much. I've been crocheting, yes. And I've been working on a blanket Afghan for my son, and I've been working on that. And I've just been dealing with some things family-wise. I touched on it a little bit in last week's video. So my son is going through a very difficult time. He's going through a relationship breakup. And when one part of your family or someone in your family that you're close to is hurting, that has an effect on the entire family. And we're a very close-knit family. So his crisis became our crisis. And I think I talked a little bit about relationships in the last video because I was moved to talk about that. However, today we're not going to talk about relationships. We're going to get started on something else. And I promised you that I would talk about my weight loss journey. If you are a returning OG Tiny Studio guest, then you have probably noticed that I've become the incredible shrinking woman. It's true. I am shrinking, and it's been a journey. It's been maybe a journey of over a year and a half, I want to say, about that long, about a year and a half or so. And I've been shrinking, and you can see it in my face. And yes, I am my neck. And yes, I am very, very excited about it, about losing weight. And before I really get into the weight loss of it all, I want to let you know that this series, and I'm going to put it in the archives under a certain heading. And the name of that heading is going to be The Fat Girl Chronicles. The Fat Girl Chronicles. I know that sounds kind of interesting, funny, maybe a little a dig at myself, but it is what it is, and that's the title of it. And I've been thinking about it for a while, and this series is going to be titled The Fat Girl Chronicles. And I want to talk about my weight loss journey, but I'm really going to focus on how I got here. How did Nell get to the point where she is beginning to document her journey as a fat girl? And it's like a very nuanced thing, but I'm very sure that a lot of you can understand and probably have a similar journey as mine when it comes to gaining weight. And I am going to start this chronicle by letting you know what my highest weight was. Are you ready? Whew. I've never said this publicly. My highest weight was 456 pounds. That was my highest weight. 456 pounds. I used to joke around to my family, and I would say, they would say, well, Nell, how much do you weigh? What is your weight? And I would say, oh, I'm just like 100 or so pounds away from having my own TV show. That's what I would say. I'm about 100 or so pounds away from having my own television show. And if you are familiar with TLC's My 600-Pound Life, that's what I was referring to. Even though I was not 600 pounds, I really felt that I was on my way to having my own television show. And when we talk about obesity and when we talk about being overweight, I have to say that there is a stigma in this country about obesity and about being overweight and talking about being overweight, being obese. There is a stigma that comes with that. And even though we live in a country where, there is a party store or liquor store on every corner, the gas stations that we go to have all the food, not just the chips, not just the Frito-Lays, not just the Twixes and the soda pops and the beer, but now gas stations have Taco Bells attached to them, KFCs attached to them. They sell food inside of them. I mean, we live in a time period where I live in the suburbs, but let me think. There is a TGIF around the corner for me. There is a Olive Garden around the corner for me. There's a Red Lobster. There is a Dairy Queen. There is a Panera Bread. Let me see. There's a Crumble cookie shop around here. What else? There used to be a Wendy's. Now there's a McDonald's. There's an Arby's. There's a Wingstop. There is a Pizza Hut. There is a Marco's. There is a Hungry Howie's. There is a Starbucks. Several of those. There are several breakfast joints like First Watch. Let me see. Did I list them all? Probably not. Another McDonald's. Let's see. 2 7-Elevens. Um, you get the drift. You get my drift, don't you? There are food places everywhere, everywhere. And now you can get food delivered to you by way of DoorDash, Grubhub, what's the other one? Uber Eats, Instacart, all of that. For us to live in a country where obesity is basically looked down upon, frowned upon, where obesity, people who are obese are made fun of, are the butt of jokes and whatnot. But we're surrounded by enablers. Corporate America enables and helps to um, facilitate people who are obese. We talk about you, we make you feel bad. We help you. Um, we feed your depression and your anxiety about your weight and about what other issues you may have in your life. We help feed into that because we put a McDonald's on every corner so that you can, when you're feeling bad about yourself, you can just run up here and get you a Big Mac and a large Diet Coke. And if you're too obese to make it outside your house, we now have it set up where you can just go on your phone and order the Big Mac and the large Diet Coke and apple pie and large fries hot from DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats. So the way corporate America has it set up is that it's a constant cycle. It's a loop for people who are obese in this country. And that's really sad. It is. It's really, really sad and unfortunate that we are being tempted in this way at every turn. It doesn't matter. At every turn, we're tempted. It's no coincidence that when you enter your local grocery store, it's no coincidence that the middle aisles of your grocery stores are formulated to attract your eye, to attract your attention. It's no secret or no coincidence that most of the food that you find in the middle aisles of your grocery store are basically all bad for you, are unhealthy for you, and that the perimeter of your local grocery store that has the fruits, the vegetables, the juices, the meats, the dairy, all of those things are just around the perimeter of the grocery store. And it's not a lot of those things on top of that. It's not well stocked as it should be. Instead of the middle of the grocery store, the middle of your grocery store featuring all the things that are healthy for you and that are good for you, that are sustaining to your body, that's going to keep you at a really, decent or good weight. It's no coincidence that those things are limited and they are placed around the perimeter of the store instead of taking up the bulk of the grocery store. That's no coincidence because it's really all about money. It's not about nourishment or nutrition. It's not about that. It's about making money. And so we have this love-hate relationship with people who are overweight, who are obese. We say, well, why can't you just push away from the table? We say disgusting things like that. You eat too much. Why are you eating? Why have you placed yourself in a situation where you can't leave your home? Why you place yourself in a situation where you can't walk? We like to blame the victim, and we do a lot of victim blaming in this country. We really do. We do a lot of victim blaming, but we never get to the root of why things are the way they are. And the first and foremost thing about America that people have to understand is that we live in a capitalistic society. It's about making money. It's not about your health. It's not about anything pertaining to the human experience, um, spiritually, or the human experience on a metaphysical level, physically, is nothing really about positive about capitalism. Not at all. And its effects on human beings or Americans. It's nothing positive about it at all, because what capitalism really is, it's about people making money off of other people. That's what capitalism is really about. So when you have a person that's obese, that's overweight, they feel as if they're in a never-ending vicious cycle, because there's a Dairy Queen here, there's the gas station that has the Taco Bell or the KFC attached to it, or the Church's Chicken attached to it, so they're tempted. Obese people are tempted all the time to eat. Okay. And that's one of the main issues, main problems about surrounding being obese, is the availability of the wrong foods for people like myself. The wrong foods are there for us to consume at every turn. So how do you train yourself not to engage in or enter into the receivership of that type of temptation? And that's something that I had to learn, and that I'm still going through right now. Because when you think about obesity, and when I think about obesity and I think about being obese, I know personally that I have two components going on with me as far as obesity is concerned. I have a medical component, and then I have the mental health component of it. For me, medically, I did not learn until maybe 7 years ago or so, going into 8, when I experienced congenital heart failure or congestive heart failure. When I experienced that, and I received I became the patient of one of the best cardiologists in the state of Florida, and I went to get care at the #1 hospital for cardiology, which is Tampa General Hospital. On my journey to get well again, that was when I discovered, that's when my cardiologist discovered why, or one component of my weight gain. And it has to do with the fact that I have congenital heart disease, and I was born with congenital heart disease. And one of the things that was not checked, or one of the things that was overlooked, and I've asked my mother about this and my grandmother about this, as they heard this, but one of my heart valves is misshapen. One of my heart valves is abnormal. And so because it's misshapen or abnormal, and it was this way from birth, it leaks. So just think of the weight gain that happens, the water weight gain that happens. And when I look at pictures of myself as a child, there are moments when I'm just this chubby, cute little child like this. And then there are other times when I am just, so my weight fluctuated as a child. And when I talked to my mom and my grandmother about this, I asked them, what the cardiologist, asked me to ask them, did they ever notice that my weight fluctuated as a child? They both said yes, they noticed that. And that was due to that the abnormal shape, or the misshapen of my heart valve. And so over the years, as I became older, then I began to notice that I would gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. And that had to do a lot with water. But on top of that situation, now that's the medical component. What made things more difficult and worse for me is my diet. So I grew up in a family where my grandmother and my great grandmother and my aunts, they loved to cook, right? So a lot of the foods that we ate was laden with salt. And as you know, or you may know, when you have heart disease, salt is not good. So can you imagine the loop that I've been in for 50 plus years? The loop of having a leaky heart valve, okay, and then consuming salt. And what does salt do to your body? It makes you thirsty, right? I already have a leaky valve. So I'm already leaking a little bit of water. Water is being released. And then on top of that, I'm eating salt in large quantities. And so salt is making me thirsty. So I'm drinking water. And all that's happening to me is that I'm retaining water, retaining fluid. So over the years, I was retaining fluid, and then I would, gain weight, and then I would lose weight. But see, I didn't know the medical component of why I am the way I am. However, at the age of 13 years of age, and remember, this is called the Fat Girl Chronicles. So I'm basically, fat girl talking to you about my weight loss journey. So, when I was 13 years of age, I attempted to unalive myself. And when I was in the hospital for that, I underwent a lot of testing from psychologists, psychiatrists, and I was told that I was a manic depressive, that I had manic depression, which today would be bipolar depression. So back then, it was called manic depression. And the doctor suggested that I go through therapy and be placed on medication. But my parents at the time, who was part of a religion, Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses did not believe in therapy. They did not believe in psychologists, psychiatrists, all those things. They believed that anything that you had going on with you mentally was a deficiency of your spirituality and that you need spiritual help. So my parents said, no, we don't need any psychiatrists, any psychologists or anything like that. We're going to go to our elders, and they're going to be the ones that will give spiritual help. Now, these elders, they weren't educated in psychology. They were not doctors. They didn't have any DRs or MDs behind their name. They didn't have any PhDs or anything. So they didn't know anything about the mind. All they knew about was the Bible and spirituality, and how, if you're having some type of mental illness, it's a spiritual deficiency and weakness on you. So imagine being 13 years old and you're going through puberty, and you're also been diagnosed as a manic depressive, which you don't really understand, but yet still you're living your young life with symptoms of being a manic depressive. So there were tremendous highs I would have, and then there were lows, where I constantly was in between wanting to unalive myself or actually trying to unalive myself, wanting and doing. And I was going through this as a young person, as a 13-year-old girl. So while I'm going through this depression, or bipolar disorder, which I did not really get officially diagnosed with as bipolar until I was in my 30s. With being depressive, and going through the emotional states that I was going through, having the symptoms of dealing with medical depression, to calm myself, I ate food. Food was calming, specifically chocolate. If it was chocolatey, and now I know why, and I'm sure you understand why chocolate, why chocolate was a soothing and a calming factor in my life. It's because of the chemicals, the dopamine that chocolate releases. And when you have a situation where you are going through a depression, and for me, it was a medical depression. I wasn't taking any medication, any type of chemicals to supplement the imbalance that I was going through. I was using food as the chemical replacement. So chocolate was my thing. But the thing is, the point is that I wasn't just eating cocoa. I wasn't eating cocoa or natural cocoa. I was eating foods that had sugar in it, milk or dairy in it, flour. I mean, I really love King Donks. I love King Donks. I love Ho-Hos. I love Nutter Butters. I love M&Ms. I love Hershey bars. Anything that was chocolate, I consumed it all. I love chocolate milk. I love hot chocolate, hot cocoa. If it was chocolatey, I loved it because I didn't know it at the time, but what it did was it helped to regulate my mental or my chemical imbalance due to being a manic depressive. And so it will make me feel better. But of course, with sugars, they do two things. They can keep you high and make you feel really, really good. And then you get that rush, the sugar rush. And then eventually you come crashing back down, right? And if sugars break down into what? Fats. And you have all of that flour and that starch and all of that stuff. And that gets translated into or broken down into fats. And so you begin to gain weight. So there were moments during my teen years where I gained weight, but I would lose it. And that was due to the fact that, I walked, sometimes I walk, well, I could say sometimes I would walk to the bus stop, or me and my friends will walk 2 miles to the nearest McDonald's, for lunch. And then we will walk back to school. So I was burning calories. I was gaining weight, but I was burning calories and losing it. I had a friend that asked me at one of our school reunions. She said, Nell, I don't recall you being fat. And I was like, because you're right, because I wasn't. I wasn't fat in school or anything like that. I became obese as an adult. And even when I was pregnant with my daughter at 19 years of age, even when I was pregnant, no one knew I was pregnant because I just did not. I gained weight, but you couldn't tell I was gaining weight. And I was still small. As a matter of fact, which is really funny to me, I would go to the Kingdom Hall with my grandmother and nobody knew that I was pregnant. Nobody knew I was pregnant. People were trying to marry me off and pair me up with other young eligible bachelors in the congregation because people did not know that I was pregnant. They had no idea. Nobody knew until I came to the hall a month later or 6 weeks later with a baby. They're like, whose baby is this? That's my baby. And that's just how I was. But I do recall when I began to gain weight. I do recall when that happened. That happened for me at the age of, I want to say at the age of 23 or 24 years old. I was a office assistant. I think that's what they called it back in the day. I was an office assistant at Chrysler headquarters in the AMC building in Detroit, Michigan. Well, actually, it was Southfield, Michigan. And I should say that was one of the places because the Detroit Chrysler Corp headquarters was in Highland Park. And then they moved to Auburn Hills. And one of Chrysler Corp's offices was located in Southfield, Michigan at the AMC building. And so I was an office assistant or office clerk there. And then I, became an office manager. But I began to gain weight, really seriously gain weight when I started working at Chrysler. And there are two things that happened while I was working at Chrysler. I got married. And at Chrysler, being an office clerk or office manager, I did a lot of sitting. And I had a really great staff. We had a really great staff there. And we had potluck Wednesdays, which means that everyone brought in food on Wednesday. Now I had a desk and I was sitting most of the time. I would say I sat at my desk about 90% of the time. And we had potluck, so we ate. Me, I not only had I had my desk, but I also had an area where I had my own tea kettle and coffee pot, because I like specialty coffee. I liked what was the name of that lady? It was called Gloria Jean's Coffee. Do you guys remember Gloria Jean? Oh my gosh, she had the best coffee. And I love chocolate. So I had my own coffee and tea station near my desk. And so I would go to Gloria Jean's and get my little chocolate coffee, and all of that stuff. And then I would come to work and I would have my coffee on, and people would bring donuts, and, or I would bring donuts or croissants, or someone would make a cake and we bring cake and have coffee and danishes and stuff with our coffee and teas and things of that nature. And, when you're sedentary, you're not doing a lot of movement. You're not making any moves. You're not walking around or anything like of that nature. And so you begin to gain weight. And so I really began to gain weight right around that time. And it was something that like crept up on me. Another thing that happened with me when I really began to gain weight in my mid-20s was that I got married. I was on birth control. That's number one. I was on steroids and other medications for my asthma. If you are a person who's asthmatic, or you know about respiratory diseases, then you know a lot of the medications that we take for that causes us to gain weight. So you already know you have birth control, that's weight gaining. I was on steroids, prednisone for asthma. That helped me to gain weight. Then I'm living a sedentary lifestyle, which means that I'm eating constantly or snacking constantly. And because I'm not exercising, I'm not doing a lot of walking anymore, because now I have a little Toyota that I'm cruising the streets in. I'm not walking anywhere. I'm driving, sitting, doing all those things. When I get home, I'm tired. I'm at home sitting. I would record my soaps. So on the weekends, I could watch all of my soap operas and sit down with some popcorn and my favorite barbecue Frito-Lay's chips, and, maybe some, dessert or whatever. And I would sit there and vegetate on the couch, watching TV. That's when my weight gain began. It really, really hit its stride right about then. I was in my mid-20s and I was married. And also, when you're young and you're married, you're newly married, you're going through the changes that we go through as a married couple, getting to know each other, getting to know what it's like to live together. My husband and I were not only becoming a couple, but we were also parents. So we were parenting while we were newlyweds and getting to know each other as a couple, and trying to get a house together, trying to build. I think that's what the people call it today, building together. We were doing all of those things, and that can that can add stress and pressure to a young couple. And being a person that was diagnosed with manic depression, which is now known as bipolar disorder. And when I became diagnosed again, when I sought therapy in my 30s, I was about 33, 34 years of age, somewhere in there. When I started going to therapy, my doctor diagnosed it as bipolar 1. So just imagine you're going through your life and you have bipolar disorder. You have your moods, highs, your lows, low. You're newly married. You have a child. You're somebody's wife. You're somebody's parent, mother. And not only that, I was a college student. I work full time. Sometimes I had to work on Saturdays. So some weeks I was putting in 60 hours or so. Just imagine all of that on top of a person who has bipolar disorder. What was that like? And then you have a whole religion that tells you that the reason why you're having issues with your mental health is because you're not spiritual enough. So just imagine all of that compounded onto me. And that was the beginnings of my road to obesity. So I will continue this story next time. I come into the tiny studio, and it'll be called the Fat Girl Journal, the Fat Girl Chronicles. Why I keep calling it the Fat Girl Journal? The Fat Girl Chronicles is what this series will be titled. And this is my weight loss journey. But right now, how did I get here? How did we get here? And that's what this is all about. I feel comfortable talking about it with you here in the tiny studio, and I might do a little bit when I really get into the journey of losing weight. Then I'll might go over to my TikTok and talk about it there as well. But I just want to let you know that if you're going through or thinking about starting a weight loss journey, I want you to know that you're not alone. If you're on this journey and you're like me, sometimes you have good days and sometimes you have bad days, I want you to know that's normal and that we can get through this together. I also want you to know that it's very important to be open and honest about who you are and the choices that you have made to lead you to where you are today. I feel like accountability is a must when you're on a weight loss journey, because if you don't hold yourself accountable for how you got here, then when you lose the weight, you will not be successful at it because you will not have understood how you arrived to being in a place that's so unhealthy and that's so burdensome and worrisome and just, a life snatcher. If you don't hold yourself accountable, then after you lose the weight, you'll be right back to where you were. And that's not something that we want. That's not something that I want for you or for myself. And that's why I hold myself accountable for everything, I hold myself accountable now for eating, do I want to tell this? 4 boxes of Whoppers. I fell off the wagon earlier this week. I had a craving for Whoppers, something that I haven't eaten since I was a child. I had a craving for it. And so I found myself eating boxes of Whoppers. And now the taste is gone. However, I've ingested 4 boxes of Whoppers over a week's time. I believe it said 15 Whoppers was 130 pounds. So I think the box said that there were 60 Whoppers in each box. I believe that's what it said. So I need to calculate that because I need to know how many calories I have ingested this week. So it's like a never-ending cycle. It's a never-ending battle when it comes to weight loss, because many times, it's not exactly about what you're eating. It's about what's eating you. And as I said before, these past 2 weeks have been very troublesome in my family because of my son's situation. So I've been emotionally drained, and I don't want to use the word unstable, but I do want to say that in dealing with my son and our family dynamics, it has been very, very troublesome, emotionally so. And I understand that those boxes of Whoppers that I ate, I get it. I get it. And holding myself accountable is the best thing, because I know that I need to do something different next time. The next time my children are in crisis and I feel as if I can't do anything to soothe or ease their pain, then I need to channel my own frustrations and sadness into something else. It was crochet for a moment, but I might have to find something else, something more stronger, more powerful, so that when my children are going through something and I feel as if I cannot fix it for them, or that I cannot ease the pain and suffering that they're going through, and as a mom that pains me, I know that there's going to have to be something more or other that I'm going to have to do to cope, instead of turning to what? Turning to some candy or turning to chocolate. And it was chocolate specifically. There wasn't anything else I turned to but chocolate. So you know what that meant. That meant that I was looking for that high, or those endorphin, that dopamine to kick in to help with my endorphins to release some of the frustration and the anguish that I was feeling, and to replace that with a little happiness, a little happiness. So that's what the Fat Girl Chronicles are really all about. It's about me being accountable, holding myself accountable, and sharing what I learned about myself with you, in hopes that if you are going through the same thing that I'm going through, if you are on a weight loss journey, that you will feel supported and that you can learn from me. And then maybe we can do a exchange of ideas and coping skills. By exchanging that and sharing it with each other, we'll both be successful and not only taking the weight off, but keeping it off and living a healthier, fuller lifestyle. All right, then, it is 57 minutes past the hour, and I'm going to get off of here. This is Nell, Simply Nell's Tiny Studio, and we are live. Please consider becoming a member. Coming up in the new year, I will begin to place videos in the membership section of Simply Nails Tiny Studio that you will only be able to access if you are a member. So please think about becoming a sustainable member of the channel. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me here. Thank you. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, all of the things to you. I will talk to you next time here in the Tiny Studio, and it will be January the 8th, the next time I pop in here to talk to you, to hang out with you guys. It'll be January 8th. A new video will drop then. So I will see you guys later, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.